Scariest ride for me was the Scat at the St. Teresa's Carnival. I mean, pretty much any ride that was just on the highway an hour earlier than put together by teenagers is scary. But this one also spun a lot and had a barf bucket next to it. So, yes, the scariest ride was the Scat.
Scariest ride I've ever been on was at American Dream Mall, Nickelodeon Universe, the pendulum that looked like we were going to hit the roof, and then it held upside down for 25 seconds, and I had to hold you in because I thought you were going to fall out, and you made me go on it twice. And then I had a dream about it malfunctioning. And a month later, the water park had an incident where the decorative helicopter fell off into a pool full of people. So I was not completely wrong for being fearful.
Mine was Gale Force. Dre, you know, because you went on it with me. It was in Ocean City, and that ride is just ridiculously scary. It shoots you off a billion times, and it scared the crap out of me. Dre was brave. He went on it again by himself, I heard, but not me. One and done.
King Ka at Six Flags when it first opened. I remember being so excited because it was the fastest, highest roller coaster on the East Coast. And we were looking so forward to it. It was the first, as soon as the gates opened, we went right for the line and stood in line for still probably about an hour before we got on it. And I remember standing there being like, oh no, because I'm watching these cars go straight up, and then some of them didn't even make it over. Some of them hung there for a little while and then even rolled back to the start, and they had to go again. So for me, because I'm not too great with heights, I was not looking forward to it. Luckily, our car made it over the hump, but I remember being so scared and so terrified, and it was a lot of fun, but I remember saying as soon as I got off of that, I said, that's it, I'm good, one and done, I don't need to go on that ever again. That was the scariest coaster I've ever been on, scariest ride.
The scariest ride that I've ever been on was King Ka at Great Adventure. I went with one of Hannah's friends, and she told me that I had to open my eyes so because I was so scared. She's like, open your eyes, it's really cool. I'm like, okay, so I finally did, but it was definitely the scariest ride I was ever on.
I was on the Salt and Pepper with Pop Pop on Steel Pier in Atlantic City. And I thought I was falling out of it. I screamed and screamed, and Pop Pop finally got them to turn it off and let me off.
Which ride was that?
I was so relieved.
Sort of like this salt shaker ride, where it had like these two sides and this one row, like a couple rows of seats, and it would lift you up and then like twist and everything and shake and go around and everything. It was really scary. But what was really scary was I went on the ride with my buddy and Jean Marie. And Jean Marie's bar didn't completely lock. And we kept screaming at the guy to please stop the ride, and he wouldn't. So we kind of made an arm bar across Jean Marie for the entire ride.
You mean Aunt Jeannie?
Aunt Jeannie, yes. Her screaming the entire time. We're scared to death, just trying to keep her in the seat. And then the ride was done. We were all okay. And we were pretty much scared out of our minds and just pretty much worn out because it was just a really scary experience.
One that always scared me the most was called the Hellhole in Wildwood. It's one of those Gravitron style ones that spins really fast, and the force kind of pulls you up against the wall. And I loved that part. The problem was when people sort of lost their lunch, you'd get spritz. So basically every time you went on it, you were afraid of all of a sudden feeling droplets, because that meant somebody, and it sprayed over the whole thing. So that was always the scariest ride for me, because I really did not want to get puked on.
The worst ride experience I ever had was when I was young, probably 8 or 9, and I went on the octopus twice in a row, and I got sick after the second one. So that was definitely the worst ride experience I ever had.
It wasn't that the ride was scary, it was that I was little, and I went on the ride with my parents, and it was a drive-through horror house. So when we got to the end, there was this scary devil that when I was that age, it was extremely scary. But if you looked at it now, it's probably pretty funny. So that's what it was.
There was a roller coaster called the Jackrabbit, and it was at Clementon Park, which is in Clementon, New Jersey. The park is still there. The roller coaster is not, but what was scary about it was it was a little wooden roller coaster. But what was scary about it was that every time you got on it, there seemed to be like a piece of the track missing. And every time you got on it, there'd be like a new piece of the track missing. And as far as I know, nobody ever really got hurt on it. But every time you got on it, like there was most definitely a piece of the track missing. And I guess when we're young, we're kind of fearless, so you don't think about something like that. But now looking back, I'm like, wow, that could have been bad.
Ride I was most afraid of was the Hercules at Dorney Park. It is the largest wooden roller coaster, and it is crazy. And I don't know if it's still there, honestly.
The scariest ride for me, and it's a pretty scary ride, but this is because it malfunctioned. It's called the Mock Tower in Busch Gardens. I think they shut it down now, probably after this. Aunt Jess and I were there. It was Hurricane Irene was coming, so the whole park was emptied out because there was a hurricane coming, which was great because we could ride everything with no lines. So we went on this ride, and it looked like they were working on it, and they looked at us and went, nah, it's probably ready. So they let us get on, and Aunt Jess and I were the only people on this thing, and it dropped, and you have your seat, and it's supposed to line up with where you started when it lands, so it's like a big free fall drop. Well, when we got down, we weren't lined up with our bags and stuff. We were on the other side, and they went, oh, not working yet, and they closed it down again. So basically, we helped to test the ride that was probably broken, and that scared the crap out of me.
Scariest ride I've ever been on was in Vertigo. It's a roller coaster in Ohio on Kings Island. I thought I was going to die. It was absolutely terrifying. You like sat facing the people across from you, and it was crazy.
Tower of Terror, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. It was based on the 50s and 60s Rod Serling's Twilight Zone TV series, where they talk about, different scary or supernatural things, and this was a theme based on that type of genre. Ultimately, you were in a ride which was mocked up to look like a elevator, and that you got into an elevator shaft. At one point, the doors open and you see the entire theme park, and then you're just dropped as a free fall and sort of bounce up and down a couple times, and it was terrifying. A really fun ride. I believe the one in Florida may have closed and reopened as like a Guardians of the Galaxy ride now. So I think it's still sort of in play, but that was a fun thing to go on, and it was scary.
The scariest ride I've been on is probably the Tower of Terror, because I flew out of the seat while the ride was still going on.
I was scared ride is not going to roller coaster because it was upside down, and it was my first upside down ride.
For me personally, there were 4 times that I can think of when I was really scared while I was on a ride. The first time was when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I went to a carnival with my mom, and we went on the pirate ship. The feeling of it dropping was just too much for me. The second time was in kindergarten. My class went to Storybook Land for the trip, and while I was there, I went on my first roller coaster. I think it was called Bubbles, the coaster. And so it's supposed to be a very mild ride, but I was only 6 years old at the time, and I didn't know what to expect. The third time was in 2017. I was 11 years old at the time. I went to Hershey Park with Mom and John, and at this time I was starting to actually go on mild roller coasters. But we went on this indoor one called Laugh Track, and it ended up being more intense than I was expecting, because we were on this cart that spun around. And now the fourth time was the next year in 2018. 12 years old. I went to Ocean City with my dad and some of the family there. And we went on this ride called Extreme Cyclone, where you basically spin up in the air. And both that time and the previous time at Hershey Park, I just kept yelling, "Help me!" That ride at Ocean City and the laugh track at Hershey Park, I went on them both again when I got older, and I did fine because I grew more of a tolerance for rides. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know in the comments section what the scariest amusement park ride you've ever been on was.